You ever wonder what goes into putting a comic convention together? Well, wonder no more.
I never really did, but I am interested now.
Thanks. In this episode, we talked to John Costa, who created and ran the one-day Comic Expo, which we talked about in a previous video. Make sure you watch that one. It was a good one. John tells us what goes into planning and executing a successful convention.
And actually, it's a lot more complex than I thought it was going to be.
Way more complex. And a lot of moving parts that I didn't even think were moving parts, but the interview is fantastic. We learn about how vendor relations work and how to get the public excited about your convention. We also look at how to keep a convention going 1 year to the next. Success isn't easy, but can be accomplished with lots of planning and hard work. Let's listen to John's take on what it means to have a successful Comic-Con. Some other conventions should take note now.
Really?
So we are sitting here today with John, who ran a really good one-day convention called the One Day Comic Expo. This was the first year, correct?
This was the first year. Yep.
So we love to attend conventions, and we go all throughout Jersey, New York. And because it was the first year, is why we attended. We had a bad experience at a recent convention, so we figured we'd try to follow it up with a good convention. And as luck would have it, we did. So, John, how did you get started just with comic books as a whole before we get into the discussion about the convention? You're a collector, I assume.
So that's a loaded question for me if I'm a collector, right? Because I think that there's like definitions of that, right? Like, so I think a collector is somebody who purchases these books or things and then like never sells them ever. And then, there's the other side of that, which is somebody who resells. And if I were to look at that as binary, I am definitely on the more resale side of things. That doesn't mean I don't have a personal collection or a portfolio, but it kind of started for me when I was a kid. I mean, my brother and I grew up rather poor. So a lot of the comic books that we got were all hand-me-downs. From our older cousin who lived in Philly. We would just get we would get more of the cards, the 1990s Marvel cards than we would get the comic books. But that's kind of where it started. And then it fell off as I got older. Pokemon was like a big thing. So, I was working hard and cutting grass at the age of like 10 and 11 to afford to buy Pokemon packs, right?
Where'd you grow up?
So we grew up 30 minutes outside of Philadelphia in a town called Paulsboro. If you were to look at Paulsboro right now, the public school district is ranked last in the state of New Jersey, right? If you guys could fact check that, I could, keep me honest, right? It could be last, it could be a little bit more, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty far down. So like as I grew up, I fell out of comic books, but I think I always like followed them like from like a pop culture perspective, Batman, Spider-Man, the big bread and butter names, just like anybody else. And so, I would say 7 years ago, before my oldest son was born, my brother was like, hey, like Marvel's pretty much relaunching all of the new titles and they're starting at number one. He was like, I think it would be cool if you purchase some of these books to get for Santino for when he's older. So I said, okay, yeah, no problem. I thought it was a great idea. So that's what I started to do. And I was started back as a collector, I guess, as you say. And this is where it starts to get a little squirrely, right? So I went into a LCS and they had, at the time, it was, $180 or $160. And at the time, that's pretty much, it was a little high. But so anywho, so it was limited edition, or the limited series of Wolverine 1 through 4. And that's what I bought it for. It was like 160 or 180. And then literally, I want to say like a month or two after I made that purchase, I saw on eBay that it was like an $80 set. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah,
that's never going to happen to me ever again.
Right.
And I make this joke, and I'm like, they're like, so how did you get into this? I'm like, out of spite, out of complete spite, because I didn't want it to happen again. And I think that that says something. Even like as a comic book dealer, like with my customers, I always try to make sure I'm either at FMV or below FMV whenever they purchase from me.
Right.
Now, fast forward even more so, I was started to go to shows, and the shows that I was going to, they may have costed $4 or $5 or $10 to get into, and I'm like, wait a minute, like what exactly am I paying for?
Right.
Like, what am I paying for? And then I started to be a dealer at these shows, and I started to talk to some of the other dealers, and they're like, yeah, this was a good show. We had a lot of people come through the door, this, that, or the other. And I'm like, okay, like, what does that mean? Like, are people happy? Like, I don't care how many people come through the door, but like, if I were to look at this from a consultant lens, because that's where I come from, the consulting world and life sciences, but like, if I were to look at this from a consultant perspective, it's like, okay, like, you got something, but are you happy about what you received? So then I said, I'm just going to do my own show. I'm just going to have it. I'm just going to do it because I'm not happy with what's happening. And that doesn't mean that like I'm upset with the current shows. It just means that like I feel very monotone about the shows. And I thought that like a lot of things could be done differently. So for example, like I'm going to use your video as like a little bit of a citation here, but like, you guys were very happy about the first 100 people through the door, the issue thing. And like, aside from just showing up early to have first pick at books, like you should also be rewarded for being like one of the first people through the door. And that was something that took me a year to curate, were those 100 issues, because as a reseller, I'm like, okay, well, I need to make money off of what I'm buying and reselling, but also at the same time, I wanted to pick something that like had like a little bit of meaning like within the industry at that time. So
you were planning that for a year? You were planning the giveaway part of the convention you were doing for a year. That was your foresight.
So basically, I started planning my show. So the last 2 years of my like professional career was all in project management, right? So when you are in project management, you're reverse engineering, right? So essentially I needed to do something that wasn't going to be directly impacted by anything else to start like kind of like this group. So one of the things that I needed to do was I was like, okay, like this is simple enough. I don't need to talk to anybody to do it. It's just on me, and I could just do it like maybe once or twice a week. Just like review what I have, see if I want to sell it, if I don't want to sell it. Now, if I don't want to sell it, I'll make that decision in 2 weeks. If it does not sell with me, I'll just throw it in my giveaway bag.
Right.
And somebody's going to be happy to get it for free.
Yeah.
So that's where that happened. But when it comes to shows, like, I do love going. I love talking to the vendors. I love meeting other people who are collectors, who are resellers, who may not be selling at the event, who may be trying to do a trade in cash, and like all of that stuff. The business side of it all really, really interests me. And the collector side too. Like, it's so funny nowadays. I get calls about collections, and people tell me what they have, and 9 times out of 10, I could pinpoint not only like around about how old they are, but I could also pinpoint like just with a few questions, the appropriate condition of their books. And then I just go out to see them, and, we conduct business. But,
so you primarily selling online primarily, right? So
online at shows. Yeah, online at shows. And I also have I just recently said I needed another revenue stream. So, to just be a little bit more successful and just have a little bit more flexibility. So what I did was I found a very large antique mall that is kind of like near my house. Maybe like 15, 20-minute drive. And they're situated by like one of the bigger flea markets in southern New Jersey. It's called Berlin Flea Market.
Okay.
And so they had a 10 by 10 space available. And I basically said, I'll take it. And I basically turned it into a boutique, like a comic book boutique. Like, even if you were to go, I feel like personally, my style and how I want to be portrayed is actually in that little boutique spot. Everything's like very black and white. There's a neon sign. It's set up rather nice. Everything has, tablecloths. There's a spot for you to charge your cell phone if you're digging through the 1s and 3s. There's prices marked. There's wall books. I even put up on the wall, like, this is when I refresh my prices marked wall books and dollar 1s and 3s. So you know, like, you know, when the last time was I put books in. So primarily, I mean, I'm expanding, but like, I also didn't want to pay the brick and mortar rent, right? Like, I mean, down here it's like $6.75 a square foot, and you have to build it out, and you have to have insurance, right? So instead of doing all that, it's kind of like, okay, well, let me just take a look at this. If they'll have me, let me take a look at this spot, and they did, and that's all she wrote, pretty much. So
is that an exterior spot, or is it one of like is it enclosed? Like, how is it? Because we visited a flea market that New Egypt, that was built on what looked like was it
old army barracks.
Old army barracks. So there are exterior booths, and there are then interior stores as well.
Oh, you're talking about Columbus?
No, New Egypt.
It was New Egypt. Yeah,
we've been there a couple of times. Yeah, New Egypt Flea Market. It's in New Egypt, New Jersey, and it's built on from army barracks from like the 1930s. So each of the stores looks like an old barrack.
Yeah,
and
tiny little house almost.
In there, there's a guy who has a comic store, and he has like 2 of the barracks because his are combined. Was very large, and there's 2 toy stores.
Oh, that's awesome!
Yeah, we went there, and I mean, it was empty. We went there on a Wednesday during our summer. We're teachers, so we have summer vacation. So we went on vacation, and it was. I mean, it was okay. We did a video on it. It was okay. It's you know, pricing wasn't great, but.
Yeah, look, I get it's so funny. Like, I loved hearing that pricing wasn't great, because I'm like, that's where I just like, that's just me, right? So like, if you go to this, so the way that I did this consignment shop was, all my $3 books are $5 to $10 on eBay. All of my $1 books are $3 to $5 on eBay. Right. So like, if you come to my shop, chances are you're going to get some type of deal, whether you buy one single $1 book or you buy a wall book or something like that. I will say the wall books are closer to FMV, but like, the condition of my wall books are rather high, and that's just how I've always been. And I think that even goes with like the collections. I can't, if something's not of my standard of condition, I'll just walk away from it, even if it has like whatever in it. Like, I'll just walk away from it, because I think people expect something from me, and I don't want to let them down.
And as collectors, we appreciate that, because when we go to conventions or shops, and we go to a lot of shops too, if I'm looking through a bin and I see something that I've seen 1,000 times in the dollar bin, and the guy has $5 on it, I know right away this you know, this isn't the place for me,
is going to be
because I know that everything's going to be more than I see it anywhere else. And I think we get spoiled. So we're spoiled by the conventions we have in Jersey. There's so many conventions, so much competition, and there's so many good shops in Jersey that we get spoiled.
That saturation that you just mentioned, I mean, you didn't say it, but the saturation that you mentioned is just exhausting for me. So people keep asking me, when are you doing your next show? What's going on? When's the next one? And I'm like, well, like, if I do it right, and everyone had a great time at my show, and there's like little to no complaints, which there were a couple complaints, and I'm sure we'll get to those in a few minutes, but
love to hear.
But like, I would love to be Father Christmas, man. Like, once a year, this show is just once a year, and it's no frills, like nothing, just comic books, and it's something that everybody saves up for and looks forward to, and it's small and intimate, and you actually can talk to dealers and talk to other collectors. I mean, like, I would love to be that. That's like the objective, the long-term objective. Right. And then, the short-term objective of this show was really to make it like a 1995 comic book show.
Yeah, that's what it was like.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
and that's how we. And I don't know if the video expressed that, but that's how we felt. We went in.
Yeah, no, it did. I appreciate that. Yeah, that was cool.
I mean, that's what we miss. We do. We go to a lot of shows. We go to, me personally go to probably 2 shows a month, and it's getting harder and harder to enjoy the shows. And the shows that are yearly, and there's a couple that I love. King Kong is fantastic. It was last weekend, but that's $20 to get in. So right away, I'm $20 down when I go to King Kong. There's the Winter Fest is really good. That's held like in that farm area. There's a couple that stand out. Yours will be on our calendar now because of that. Because we went in there, it was bang for a buck, $5 to get in. The $5 got me a free comic book that I was very happy with.
Yeah.
And then it was just comics. And I think your dealers make a big difference too, because your dealers everything was fair priced. There was nothing that I would say, wow, that guy's really trying to rip me off. So it worked out really well for us. We're glad we went because for us, it popped up on Facebook and I was like, oh, Brian works on Saturday. So I was like, oh, it's Sunday.
Yeah.
Let's go. And
it's cool that a couple of things that you mentioned, right? Like I was struggling. So first off, I'm going to try as long as I can and as hard as I can to make sure my show stays no more than $10 for as long as humanly possible.
Right.
That being said, I was on the fence for about a month or two because you start, one of the main things you have to create are the flyers, and I'm like, oh crap, I got to put the price on the flyers. You know what I mean? Like that's a big deal. So I was like, okay, should this be $7 or should this be a $5 show? And I was like, $7's odd. That's weird. People could just hand me a $5 bill or at the show. It was my mom and my aunt, right? but $5 I think just made the most sense. And it'll be $5 again next year. Like I'm just going to put that out there now. I don't believe I was paying, like I said this on the Spineworks Instagram Live discussion, and I don't pay to go into the mall to buy stuff. Right. Like, so if you're paying to come into my show, there has to be some kind of experience for $5, and I had to justify $5.
Yeah.
Right. So my justification for $5 was immediately when you walked in, you saw Joe Rubenstein, you saw Ben Harvey, you saw Chris Condon, and you saw Carmen Costa. Right. And quite frankly, like a lot of people in the southern New Jersey area, in the Maryland area, and the Delaware area may not see or may not have had a chance to see Joe Rubenstein at the last Philly Fan Expo. So like this for $5, like there's one of the most prolific inkers in the industry, and $5, like that's easy.
Yeah.
So it's been a ride. Yeah, it was like 10 months of planning, and I'm starting planning now. I've already emailed at least one artist. That's pretty much where I'll leave it.
I'm assuming you can't tell us a lot of them.
What's that?
I'm assuming you can't really reveal a lot about the one coming up.
Yeah, look, I mean, as much as I want to just like drop the bomb and just say this is who I want and this is it, I can't because some of these guys. I'm going to drop hints, but some of these guys who are like older, they have their way that they like to travel.
Sure.
So you're paying for travel you're paying for travel for the artists and for
you pay for everything.
You pay for
there's no you don't to be honest, like to get what you want, or at least in my experience with Rubenstein, like you pay for him. So my job, when I pay him, his job is to come out and be an artist.
Right.
That's it, dude. Like full stop. Now, I can't have him worrying about travel. I can't have him worrying about food. Like and again, that's the consultant mindset of me. It's like when I was hired to go out to like pharmaceutical companies, like my only concern was doing the job that they hired me to do. I didn't have to worry about food, hotel, or driving. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the same mentality. These guys are acting as with all respect to their art and their creativity and everything else. I mean, obviously what they do for us. they're kind of, they are getting paid as consultants. So, you know, you pay them and they come out and they execute. And not for nothing, like that's what most of these guys do, and they do it really well. They're very professional. And at least all the guys that I had, they were fantastic. Like I have no complaints about the guys that I had out, man. I mean, they were all awesome. Everybody who I talked to, who talked to Joe, who talked to Ben, who talked to Chris and Carmen, I mean, like, they were very happy, and that meant a lot. And obviously, you know, like, Ben and Chris are rooted in Philly and New Jersey,
right?
And Rubenstein is rooted in New York, right? But he lives in LA now, so it was cool. But yeah, I had to, you know, we pay for everything, at least if within the means of my.
Right.
It was just me putting this on, so
you have a budget.
I can afford.
So you're budgeting for them. You're budgeting for the hotel. What are you charging per table from the vendors?
Yeah, so vendor tables this year were only $80.
Wow. Oh, wow. That's cheap.
Right. So, and here's my other argument. I am a reseller and a vendor. Okay. I have to eat.
Right.
Yeah.
I have to buy collections. So for me to turn around and say, okay, this is the first show, I need X $500 a table. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'm just being very, I'm trying to be as empathetic as possible with all of these people who are involved. And I think the vendors overall were happy. Like, none of them really had a negative thing to say, like, no negative feedback with regards to setup or space. The space was a big deal to me. I've been to shows where, like, borderline can't move with the vendors in the room. Like, forget the attendees, but just with the vendors in the room. And I'm just like, bro, we cannot have that. So I limited the amount of tables. I wanted my artists to be comfortable. And that helped, like, so I don't know if you realize, but the island, the vendors were on one side of the island and the artists were on the other side of the island. And this is just a little tip for anybody putting together a show. And what I learned is that if you do that, the vendors on the opposite side of the island have more room for their walls because the artists don't take up that much space.
Right.
So it just helps you set up a better island.
Yeah.
And what I also did with the island is I cut off the edges where the vendors are, just in case there was going, or the artists were, just in case there was going to be a line for Rubenstein or Spineworks, because there were a ton of people there for Spineworks as well. And that brings up another point. All these $4, $5, and $10 shows that are local to me, frankly, they're not offering a service, right? Like, having Spineworks in the room was extremely important, especially not just because of, like, what they do, but because of how they do it. Like, I've worked with Mike and John and like, over there at Spineworks, they do fantastic work. So, like, having them at my show, I was flattered, first off, but second, they're super professional, but also, like, we had a lot of people come in just to see and get their books facilitated through Spineworks.
Right.
And a lot of these shows, like, $4, I walk into a room, I just see the same vendors. Sometimes, you know, shows get stale. And I will make this statement for the next year's show. You will see some vendors that are coming back, but for the most part, at least, you know, fingers crossed, I'm going to basically make it a application process. So there will be a small screening, just from all the positive, you know, feedback I've gotten, but also, like, I cannot have a stale room, like, stale room and stale wall, like that. I can't have it. Like, I get OCD when my wall is too stale. Like, I can't imagine how you guys feel when you keep walking into the same room and the show is stale because it's the same vendors and the same stock, right? So,
that's how those monthly ones. I know Jersey has a lot of monthly ones now where they run it every month, and nothing against them. Some of them are good. It's the same vendor with the same stuff, month after month, and nothing really changes. And a lot of the vendors you see at the yearly ones are not the same guys that are at the monthly ones. So you get to see somebody new and with new inventory and, stuff you haven't seen in a while.
Yeah, I tried to. It was funny because, not that anybody said it to me, but like the local guys that I've seen at shows, I could tell that they were a little pissed off that like I went to Maryland and I got a couple dealers from Maryland or Delaware, and like not for nothing, but like I don't know, bro, do better. Like I'm look. If I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, and people aren't buying books from me constantly, or the promoter isn't happy with me at the show because my stock isn't what it should be, and it is stale. So that promoter has a right to be like, listen, it's just not working. I'll bring somebody else in.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure promoters do that. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't think that
the amount of repeat we see.
I don't know. And
do.
Listen, some of the stock that we've seen, you go through a bin, you're like, why would you even bring this? Why is this even here? And it was here last time I was here.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're saying you're gonna basically vet your vendors, that's good news to anyone coming to your con. It really is.
Absolutely.
It's funny because like what I do with my stock personally, and I think it helps for what you just said, like the recycling of inventory, like getting old books out. On my price tags, the majority of my price tags, I would literally say like 98% of my price tags, there's a date.
Okay.
So like I know that if certain things don't sell within like a 6-month period or 12-month period, depending on when my next show date is, I'll slash the price tag.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't want it. If it's not selling, it is not doing me any good. I can't have that in my inventory, right? But at the same time, it's advantageous for you guys because you're like, wait a minute, like this, he had this marked at $25. It's a $10 book. So maybe I'll mark it to $12.50, but when I flash a $25 book, it just goes to $10. Like I'm not going to charge you $12.50.
Right.
And that's just how I do it. But like, I know a lot of resellers or vendors, they just don't like really know how old their stock is or stuff like that. And that could be part of the problem. But like, what also could be part of the problem too, is that the promoters,
well, they're not making money off of the vendors. So that's how I always,
right.
If I paid to be at table at your convention, that's, as a promoter, that's all they care about. I don't care if you sell. I want you to come back year after year if you're my regular, but I don't really care what's in your stock. I don't look at your stock.
Yeah.
But as collectors, us going in there, that's when we say, why did I waste my money to come to this one?
Right.
Because my money, for us, I have a budget like everyone else has a budget. I have a budget to get in. I have a budget to travel. They have a budget of how much I'm spending when I get there.
Yeah.
Every little thing chips away at that budget, and that's the budget that goes back into your convention. So for me, if I spend $20 to go into a convention, that's less money than I'm going to spend with one of the vendors. That money would have been spent on more books for me.
Again, like being like, my brother and I didn't go to comic book conventions growing up. I've never been to comic book conventions until I started reselling, to be like really frank, right?
Yeah.
But I take that back. Like I went to go look for a couple books and then I started reselling. But my point is that like I'm coming from the viewpoint of somebody who's not only like financially strapped, but some like who was a collector. So I'm just trying to keep those goggles on. So like when you guys come to my show, I need you to spend more money in the room. So the $5 entry is just like perfect. Really,
and that's good for
realistically,
because that's what the vendors want more. If you're, the one we keep referring to, one we went to one and it was $15 to get in, and like you said, the $15 got us nothing. There was
just got us in the room.
There was no really big named artist. When I walked in the room, the first thing I saw was an old comic book table with the guy had a mess of stuff. And it was like, we did this. And walked out.
And left. Yeah.
We were in
That's bad.
we were in the convention for less than 15 minutes. And it was like, what? And I had been to the convention before, and I left, and I was like, why the hell am I back here again? Why am I here again? Why did I wait again?
You know what's funny is that planning and putting together a comic book show is very much like a wedding.
Okay.
And from start to finish, in my opinion, is very much like a wedding, right? Why do I say that? I started planning 10 months out because I had to get Rubenstein on board, and I knew he was going to get booked up, et cetera, and so forth. So all that stuff, I had to get the room, et cetera. So let's just fast forward then to the wedding day, i.e. one day Comic Book Expo.
Right.
My attendees are giving me a gift. I have to make sure the food and the music is so good that they forget about the gift that they're giving. If they forget about the gift that they're giving me. If you walk away from the wedding and you're like, oh, I like the food was the music was so bad, or the food was so bad. Like, that's the same concept at comic book shows.
Yeah,
same concept. You're gonna leave. Yeah, and so that's how I approached. That's literally how I approached it. That's how I approached this whole thing. It's like, I may be building it up. So that's the other thing. Like, people forget about word of mouth advertising. And it's I mean, not like,
yeah.
It's just one of those things that's subtle. That's what I mean by forget about it, right? So I want to say 6 months out, I just started reminding everyone, like every month, every like 2 months, hey guys, hey, don't forget Rubenstein. Hey, one day Comic Expo. Vendors are booking up. So my vendor table sold out by last October 15th.
Wow.
Of last year.
Wow.
And how many tables did you have? Vendor tables?
So the tables, don't quote me on this. I would have to like physically count my room sheet. Vendor tables, 42.
Okay.
Because 4 or 5 of those tables were artist tables.
Okay.
So it was 47 or 46 total, and 42 were vendors. And in total, I think there were 19 vendors. So this is the other thing that I find to be extremely important. And I'm probably just over being long-winded, but so I'm sorry. But
that's okay. Sorry about it.
So you can't over cannibalize a room, right? You can't like you can't put too many vendors in a room. So like, I didn't want too many single table vendors,
right?
Because I wanted the competition to be a healthy one.
Okay.
Like, I was able to, at my show, very easily, when someone asked me for something, I was like, oh, go down there to the comic book store, or go over to 360 Comics, or go over to To Be Continued, or go over to Basement Comics. Like, it was very easy for me to just direct people in a way. I don't know if other vendors did that, but I think there were a couple people who did that. And it was very much just a healthy environment, because they were all making money. So everybody was just referring people to other people. And it was a very just synergistic room. Like, everybody was just working off of everyone.
Well, that's good.
That's good. What was the attendance? Do you know?
There's a lot of people there.
So,
a lot of people there.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you the number that I got.
Okay.
That was reported to me, and I have a feeling you're going to disagree. But the number that was reported to me was 454.
The whole day?
Teenagers.
The whole day. So what I think happened was, I had a guy. So what happened was,
I would say,
oh man, hopefully my mom doesn't watch this video, and she probably won't. But my mom started tallying the people coming in, but my buddy at the door was doing he had a tally button.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. On his tally button, he got like 419, but it was after her tallies on the notepad.
Yeah.
Plus, we had, which was really cool, we had a busload of students come from Bayonne High School.
Oh, so that's what, because at one point I said, it looked like a busload of kids just came because they just kept coming.
They did. So in addition to NJ Comic Stop and running the One Day Comic Expo, I also have a nonprofit called the Comic Book Collective.
Okay.
So basically, that organization raises money to provide school supplies and/or scholarships to at-risk or underprivileged youth.
That's great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I think his name is Josh, reached out to me. He's one of the teachers at Bayonne. And I'm not saying that these kids are at risk or underprivileged. He just actually reached out to me just to say, hey, like, I have a busload of kids. We want to come out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what can we do? And at first, it was so funny because I was like, all right, well, it's $5 a person because, like, this is my first show. And, like, I'm trying to make money, dude. Like, but then I was like, let me call him back. So I called him back and I was like, listen, you and whoever chaperone, just come. Like, you guys are in for free. Like, I run this nonprofit. It's like, you guys should just be able to walk in. I said, so long as you guys have appropriate chaperones, like, it's not crazy. I said, it's just going to be comic books, no toys, no figs, just comics. And he reassured me. He was like, listen, the kids love comics. Like, that's why they take this class, et cetera, and so forth. And I was like, dude, that's dope. And then,
that's great.
Lo and behold, they came and, you know, they got comps, free, charge, whatever. I was just very happy to have them. I'm very flattered that he reached out to me, and hopefully they come out again next year. But I was talking to him and I was talking to the other vendors, and he was like, yo, those kids were spending money.
And we said the same thing on video. It made us really happy to see that, because we go to a lot of conventions and we don't see kids. We see little kids with families. We never see teenagers. And not only do we never see teenagers, we never see teenagers talking. They were talking about comics.
Yeah.
And that to us was one of the most positive things we saw at your show. And I was actually going to ask you, how'd you get so many teenagers there? You answered it before I asked it. Yes. I went when I was a teenager with my friends, and it was a big deal as a kid. You didn't have a lot of money, but you had enough money to go to a convention. And that's why to me, it was like an old show, because there were teenagers, and there's never teenagers.
Never see
teenagers at convention. And
that's on kind of.
Yeah, but not to the scale.
Like
you're at one point, really, there was a bunch of kids just walking. I was like, wow, this is really cool that there's teenagers, and they knew comic books, and they were flipping through bins and buying stuff. That was a good point. I know a lot of people probably say it probably wasn't, because there was teenagers around there, but
nobody has complained. Nobody has complained about the teenagers. Yeah, I mean, like, look, if they want to come again next year, I'm definitely gonna have them again.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny, and I mean, I don't mind admitting, like, I was gonna charge them at first, but, like, I feel like I just feel like such an idiot. Like, I mean, the reason why I had said that is because, like, if you had like 3 kids with you at the front door when you came into my show, dude, you're getting charged for those 3 kids to come in.
Sure.
But like, it's a little different when it's like, because the teacher, he taught pop culture and comic books at Bayonne. Like, it was basically a school trip for them.
Right.
He got the bus. He got them to pay for their food and everything just for them to come down. So, it was really cool.
That's so awesome. And
so
we get it. We're teachers.
Yeah.
We've both been teachers for a long time. That's a cool thing to do for.
It was funny because I was like, listen, I was like, if those kids get out of line, because I straight up said it, I was like, I got security on staff, bro, and they're not going to play. They're not really going to play around.
Yeah.
Like,
and you didn't have any.
The kids.
There was no incidents, right? There was no issue.
There was almost an but it got solved really quickly. I mean, the guys I had in the room who were working security, people said that they were a little like intimidating and et cetera and so forth. And I'm like, well, you know what? I mean, they're not there to fucking sign. Oops,
That's
sorry.
No, you're allowed to curse.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I've been trying so hard not to curse, by the way, this whole
I do it every time we record. I am fighting the urge not to curse. I always do. Brian never does. I curse constantly. So.
But they're like, yeah, they were like, so this is one of the complaints, right? The local comic book store, a couple people they're like, yeah, it was a great show, but you know, the security was like a little much. They were like a little intimidating. And then another kid was like, well, this was actually like a younger guy who's in the industry, I guess you should say, in this local area, was like, he was like, yeah, he's like, I don't know if you want to pay for like 7 or 8 security guards next time. He was like, maybe like 4 or 5 should do. I was like, well, first off, there were only 5, so they must have been doing a hell of a job that you thought there were 8. I was like, and then second, I said, for the other people who are intimidated or what have you, I mean, it should actually, those security guards were really there to make sure my vendors felt comfortable.
Yeah.
At that point, that's where I draw a line between attendee and what my job is as a promoter.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you feel uncomfortable with those guys, which I don't think a lot of people did, but if you did, that you were just a little in the wrong mindset or whatever.
Right.
But like overall, the vendors were happy that they were there. I was happy that they were there. Like,
I have to be honest.
I mean,
I didn't notice them either. I guess
that's good. That's perfect.
I didn't notice them at all.
Yeah.
So the guys with the white shirt,
Okay.
said,
"Oh, with the comic shop shirts."
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And on the back of the shirt, is a Banksy quote. Do you guys know who Banksy is?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Famous graffiti artist.
Yeah.
On the back of the shirt, it says, "I'm not here for anything. Oh no, I don't care about anything. I'm just here for the violence." That's what the back of the shirt says.
I did see one of those. Yeah, I do remember seeing one.
So I mean, it was subtle, but it wasn't that subtle. You know what I mean? But that's the other thing that I heard about small shows and big shows. Mainly the big shows. I've heard people's tills getting taken. Yeah. I've heard about books being lifted, and trust. 3 or 4 of the dudes, 2 of the guys who were working at that show were all just off-duty police officers.
Right. Yeah.
And then the other 3 were dudes who, probably you wouldn't want to.
You didn't have to worry about anything.
Yeah,
you had no incidents. No one tried to steal.
In the beginning, there was a little bit of a mishap where I don't know how it happened because it's never happened to me when I'm looking through books. But someone took books and then like resituated them, but the vendor had thought that they were lifted. So that there was like a 30-second mad rush of like, where is this person? And they couldn't find the person, so they thought they left. And then my boy, one of the police officers, he was like, we're good. And I was like, that's all I needed to hear. And that's all it took. Because like, not for nothing, if they weren't there, that could have turned into like a 45-minute to an hour ordeal.
Sure.
Where it's like, where are these books? Where is this person? Who's this? Who's that? But like,
or something.
For me,
right.
Yeah, and for me, it was just worth it to pay those guys to be there. It really was. Really was.
You had no incident. What was some of the other complaints you got? Out of curiosity, we have one. We have a complaint too, so we'll give you odds at the end.
I think I know what your complaint is.
We complained already.
I don't even remember.
But the other complaint was, and Chad, I don't know if you're gonna agree with this, but the other complaint was there was not enough $1 and $2 bins.
I disagree with that.
I would disagree with that.
Yeah.
You saw I had a stack. So if I had a stack like this, there was more than enough. $1 and $2 bins.
Mm-hmm.
So the one thing that I tried to do, like 10 months ago. So realistically, we're 10 months or 8 months before the show. I started sourcing my vendors, and everyone was like, well, I can't commit to this far out. And I'm like, if you can't commit, I'm just going to find somebody else, or somebody else is going to find me. Mm-hmm. But when I was talking to them, like, I kind of attempted to hand pick my guys.
Okay.
I knew who had $1 and $2 books. I knew who had killer wall books. I knew who was going to come with Golden Age. I knew who I could depend on to come with a bunch of slabs and like all this stuff. So like, that is part of like, so not only did I curate the vendor, or not only did I curate the 100 keys, right? Like the vendors was something else that I was trying to do, because I need you to come in and walk away and say, everything was there.
Yeah.
Everything was there.
because you had that one guy who had the Carlton books and he had the Disney books. And
the Dells.
We rarely ever see that.
We never see those. Yeah,
at a convention, he had all the old, it's old Golden Age stuff, but it's not old Golden Age Marvel and DC. It was the other Golden Age,
right?
That we never see those at conventions.
So your complaint, I think,
you go ahead,
was the room size, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I will say
it could have been it could have been bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were there. It was packed when we were there. I mean, it was.
We were there right at the beginning.
Right. It was crowded, and I'm not to the point where New York Comic Con we couldn't walk around crowded, but crowded where it was like if there was a bigger room, it would have been. And to me, I think that your show should grow just because of how well it was run. I would think when word of mouth starts getting out there, more vendors are going to want to go, and then more vendors want to go, more collectors want to come, and I just think, if you run a good show, it's going to grow naturally.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would be bullshitting you guys if I didn't say I was a little nervous to go to a bigger room, but at the same time, so I used to throw like punk rock shows and whatever, when I was in high school. So the idea is, and then if you have a band, right, the idea is you have to grow locally, then regionally, and then or local, and then city, and then regional, right?
Sure.
So in my mind, I'm trying to run this the same, that concept still hasn't left me. So I want to say that at least for next year, I'm 70% certain that I'm going to be in the same room.
Okay.
Only because because how long did you guys stay until? Do you remember?
Well, we got there right when it opened.
We were one of the first 100, so we got there when it opened, and we were home by 2
probably.
So we probably left there about 1:15.
Wow. Okay. So you guys actually.
We were there for a while. Yeah, we're about.
So that's a little
less than an hour away from where you are.
Yeah.
So that's a good metric. I mean, for me, that's.
We walked around a bunch of times. We went around quite a few times.
Yeah.
And that's the crazy part. So
what time did the bus get there? What time did the Bayonne bus get there? Because we were there.
Oh, they were early. Luckily, because he called me, because we had tried to work this before, a week or two before he came. I was like, all right, look, I got to figure out. I'm very process oriented.
Okay.
If this happens, then we need to do that. So he called me, and I'm like, okay, if I'm giving you whatever, then we have to be prepared for how you guys are going to get in. So I said, when you get there, just you go right to the front. The woman at the front is going to have a band of your wristbands. She's going to hand them to you. You take them back. You get all the kids banded, and then you bring all the kids in. I was like, that's how it has to happen.
Okay.
But they were, and I did tell him, listen, because they're not paying. Unless the kids pay, they could get one of the first 100. But I want to say they were within the first 100 people.
Yeah.
Within the first entries, I want to say they were there, because he had told me he planned for a 9:45 arrival or something like that.
Right.
But that metric, and I'm so lame.
We were definitely there when they were there. Yeah.
Yeah,
we were in the
such a lame thing for me to call, but that metric that you just said, how long I was in the room for, that is so important. Yeah. That is such an important metric. You said at the bad show, you were in the room for 15 minutes, and then at my show, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, 12 to 1, you were in the room for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So,
which means that we went through a lot of boxes. After we went through the boxes, we went around again and went through boxes again. That's what to me, that's how I measure. Did I go around the room? I hit the guys that I hit the dollar bins.
Yep.
I went around and I hit some of the bigger money bins and bought a couple of bigger money books. And then I went around again to say, you know what? I want to see if it's I have my way I do it. Not specific, less specific, really specific, where I'm looking for that specific book. So if I have time and I like what I see, and we spent a lot of time with the guy with the Dell, just chatting with him.
Yeah.
And I actually,
because that was,
I don't know if
do you remember his name?
No, it was an older guy.
Yeah.
He was in the middle of the room.
He had a bunch of Dell stuff. He had
Disney
stuff. He had
Disney.
He had a whole
on a corner.
He had a whole box of just horror books.
Yeah.
too, which I don't see a lot.
Right more in the middle. He was
and westerns. He had a whole box of western too.
Was it Clandestine Comics? Fred?
Maybe.
Older guy.
Oh. He wasn't in a wall. He was in an island.
He was in an island. Yeah.
Yeah. On one.
Yes, he was in the middle. Yeah.
On the far left. Yeah.
On the far left. Was it Timmy? He had like longer hair.
No, can't remember.
Older white-haired guy.
Yeah.
Very friendly. We chatted with him for a little while.
But that was very cool to see because you don't see a lot of vendors dedicating entire boxes to subgenres like horror and western.
It's always Marvel and DC.
Yeah.
And then one indie box usually the vendor will have.
Yeah. I mean, I will admit, like all my boxes. So I don't organize by publisher. I organize just alphabetically, alphanumeric. I try to at least. I mean, when I'm not back to back.
Sure.
But most of the time, I just will dump, A's and A's, B's and B's, whatever, and I'll just fill as many boxes as I can, and then I have my wall. But yeah, I'm never satisfied. So am I? But I tell you what, I'm happy about. I'm very happy that you guys had a good time. I'm very happy that my vendors were happy, and I'm happy that the artists are possibly going to want to come back again. So, that's the other thing too. It's like, are you going to switch out the artists? And I'm like, maybe. I mean, maybe not. You don't know. Like, the cool thing about Chris and Ben is that they're not Joe Rubenstein.
Right.
So in a year, they could do some crazy stuff, and people might go crazy over it.
Yeah.
And in addition to what they've already done, by the way, and they might just want to come back. And if they want to come back, I'm going to be like 100%, bro. Definitely come back. Because Chris and Ben are just absolute sweethearts. Like, if anybody had a chance to talk to them, they were fantastic. And same thing with Carmen. Carmen is a Kickstarter guy, and he's releasing his second issue of his first book. And he had a short story. I mean, it looks great. It's printed great. He's using guys who draw for, I think, Boom and DC or something like that. Very established guys. I mean, I don't think artists will ever make a room stale unless they're just how can I put this without sounding so terrible?
Sound terrible. We've been to
unless they're
I don't think
the same thing over and over.
Yeah, I don't think artists will ever make a room stale unless their personalities are just terrible.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Because they're literally, especially if they're just starting, their only job is to sell and create content. Sell and create content.
Yeah.
That's it. Somebody like Joe, he's established. In the giveaway, in the raffle that we did, I mean, it was X-Men 266, Avengers 196, all 4 copies of Wolverine 1 through 4, Infinity Gauntlet. He's responsible for that stuff. Yeah. And people know those characters. And so, I mean, all he needed to do was just show up and just, I'm drawing, dude. I'm working, I'm drawing. And he was letting people watch him. Yeah. I was blown away because he was having conversations like we're having. And next thing you know, he's drawing this full picture of Rogue and Wolverine. You know what I mean? I'm just well, damn. But I think that's the only way artists will make a room stale is their personality, for sure.
We have some suggestions when we're offline. We do. Yeah, we don't have artist friends and contacts we have made over the years. I know two. I know one specifically would fit very well in there.
Yeah.
We'll talk when we're off. We'll talk.
That'd be fantastic. Yeah.
Offline when we're done. So, any other complaints? I'm interested. We rarely complain about shows unless it's awful. So I would wonder what are people expecting?
Yeah, that seemed to
because I don't know if you watched the whole video. I was talking to a guy at one point. I don't know if you saw that part, and the guy was saying how he hadn't been to the convention in 10 years.
Yeah, I did see that part. That was awesome. Yeah. It's funny. I have mentors in this. So I have some mentors in this game, and it's funny. I think if you were to ask another vendor, they're not going to. I don't know. I'm just very open about that stuff. I have 5 or 6 mentors, and maybe they talk to me about different things, but they always give me really, really great advice. And I would be remiss to say that they didn't provide me with all of that advice before I did this show, right? Now, that being said, the first people I went back to ask, are you happy, bro? Are you happy? And they were basically I would do it again. Yeah. I would do it again next year, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm just all right, so we did something right. And then some of those people also own local comic book stores. So I was listen, keep your ears to the grindstone. I want to know if people had a bad or negative they keep telling me nothing. They're listen, it was good, don't change it. But that's not. Yeah. So I'm changing, just so you guys know, I'll say it here. I think the only thing really that's going to be a major change is going to be the raffle. Okay. The raffle is going to be limited. Mm-hmm. So it's only going to be, I want to say 100. It's going to be limited to 150 or 200 people. That's it. Okay. You could buy multiple raffles. For every one raffle you buy, you will get an entry into the show. So it's not just the raffle you're purchasing; you're also purchasing the entry to the show. I mean, again, show's only $5, but at the same time, I don't think you get that anywhere else. And then I was thinking about doing pre-sales because of what your response was to the room size. It's okay, well, should I do pre-sales and limit the amount of tickets I sell to the room and make it a closed event? Because I don't want people to feel claustrophobic in the room. Yeah.
See, I think that hurts you with families. So one of the other thing I liked about the convention was there was a lot of families there with little kids, and I always like seeing that at conventions because that's how I got back into comic collecting that way, by bringing my little kids. And when you do pre-sales and you limit that, you don't a family's not going to plan. To me, that's one of those things. There's a comic convention 20 minutes from us. Let's go. It's Saturday. It's Sunday. Let's go. Yeah. And I think that takes away from. Yeah, that would be. I mean, at no point was it unmovable in the convention. No. And we were there for a while. I don't like pre-sale.
No. Listen, this is. I mean, I was on the fence. So here's the thing. I was on the fence about it, and that's why I'm having this conversation with you guys now. So you guys go to enough conventions to know. So now, chances are I won't be doing pre-sale, right? Yeah. It's pretty much. I try and listen to the people who know enough. Mm-hmm. Like if I could get free consultant advice from you guys, I'm gonna take it. Dude.
Life
I'm not. I mean, if I'm not paying for it,
that's my thing with pre-sales. I'm going to a little convention, and I go probably twice a month. If something comes up and I have to skip it, I hate worrying that King Kong was this weekend, and King Kong does pre-sales, and I'm I had all this stuff going on. I wasn't feeling good. I'm not going to pre-sale, but then they kept saying, "Oh, we might sell out." So literally that morning before I left my house, I bought a ticket, and it pains me to do that because you never know. You never know what's going to be thrown at you in life. I like to go in and know I'm not going to get shut out. I'm not going to drive an hour and get shut out of a convention because they pre-sale.
You also have to take Chad's complaint about the crowd with a grain of salt, because if it were up to him, it would just be him in that room going through the boxes.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Did you do early entry? Did you do an early entry?
So
I never do early entry. I've never done it. I don't want to be in the room with that. I'm
going to say something.
Go ahead.
I think early entry is bullshit.
So do I. Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing.
That's a vendor entry to me. That's
here's the thing. I have $5. You have $10 because you are working some type of job that affords you to save $10 to get in the show.
Right.
You're going after a $3,000 Hulk 181.
Right.
I'm also going after a $3,000 Hulk 181. I saved just as much money as you did, but the entry fee is what it is.
Right.
So you're telling me just because demographically you have more money than I do, that gives you the right to get into the same room as me? No. So in my mind,
yep.
If you need to work harder to get into the same room.
Yep.
So that's why I do not that's why I don't do early bird, and that's why I give away something for the first 100 people.
Yeah.
Because those people are working harder to get into my show first, and they have saved, just as hard as anybody else, dude. And to charge someone more to like give them that little, it's like a VIP access.
Yeah.
I don't believe in VIP access, bro. You show up at the time or before and work harder, and then
you stand in line like everybody else is standing in line.
Or you stand in line like everybody else, man. Like I am not that.
I've never done early entry because it's to me, I don't know if I want to be in a room, and this may sound wrong. I don't know if I want to be in a room with a crowd like that. That's not the crowd I want to be next to flipping through books. Because then to me, that's not, if you're a collector and that's really all you're about in this hobby, there's no need for you to be in there early to get the prime stuff, to be the first guy to grab whatever. I think everyone, like you said, everyone should have a fast shake, and you go where you go, and you get lucky when you get lucky.
Yeah, listen, that's what, man. My brother asked me one day, and I just popped off. I didn't even understand. At one point, because it really does get under my skin, this VIP early bird stuff. And you know what? Kudos to all the promoters who are doing it and they're making money, and kudos to the people who like the early bird stuff. But this is just how I feel. Listen, in the unforeseen, I do not think I'll ever have an early bird ever. And I just don't agree with it. I just don't agree with it, man. It's just like, look, I mean, I don't know what kind of music you guys are into, but if you were into the old, like, punk rock shows and shit like that, where they used to have, I mean, my brother still goes to shows at the First Unitarian Church, right? Yeah. So, like, not for nothing, but, like, he's probably paying, like, $10 or $15 a ticket, just like everybody else in line. If you're first in line, you get to the rail. If you're not first in line, you're going to get into the back.
Yeah, you put the work in.
Exactly. So that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at.
These days, though, I prefer the back.
Yeah, of course. I also do too. My brother. So I will say this. So my brother is an English teacher now.
So is Brian.
Oh, cool. Yeah. He is now a reading specialist. But he still goes into the pit.
No, he's better. He's a better man than me.
He's probably a lot younger than you. Yeah. He's probably a lot younger than you.
My brother's 39.
Oh yeah, no.
How old did you turn on Monday?
I'm 51. So.
Oh, congratulations, man! That's a milestone.
Yeah, I actually went to a. This is off topic, but I went to a Social Distortion show about 15 years ago.
Oh, cool.
And I took a good number of shots that showed me I don't belong in there anymore.
And that was 15.
Yeah,
Brian.
The last time I talked to him after the show, he was like, "Dude, I don't know if I could do it anymore, man." I'm like, come on, bro. I mean, you're in there, bro. That's half the battle. It's cool. But so, I mean, back to the early bird thing. Like, you're not gonna get any, dude. Somebody could have came up to me before the show and been like, "Yo, I'll give you $100 for me to get in early," and I'd be like, "No, no."
Yeah,
we should all be the same level.
Yeah.
No, and look, and my brother was like, "Well, what about the raffle?" And I'm like, "Well, look, that's a little different. How people want to throw away their money is a little different.
That's
right." But I just said throw away your money for my own raffle, but it is like kind of like a chance game, right?
Sure.
But and at the same time, I will say this will be a very big grand prize.
Okay, so the next o's going to be bigger.
A bigger one.
We'll definitely be
bigger. The next raffle.
Do you have a date in mind yet? Do you have a date lined up yet? Nothing official yet.
Nothing official. So this is something that I don't think promoters do. Maybe they do. Maybe I'm just so new to this that I'm an idiot and they do. But in my experience, what happens is these promoters pick dates and then they go after talent and vendors.
Okay.
But I'm doing the opposite. I'm going after talent first, picking a date based off of them, and then I'll be going after vendors.
Oh, good.
So, yeah, I'm very adamant about the possible like artist that I would like to have at the show. They don't come around. First off, South Jersey, we don't get much. Like, we really don't. I mean, there's not much in South. Like, I think my show, Bill Beads, and the Campbells have South Jersey shows, like, a lot, I think. Like, I would say once every 2 months, but it's very much like it's not just comic books. Bill Bead has, I want to say 2 shows every year, and they're pretty cool. They're good shows. I mean,
what's the name of the shows? What's his shows called?
So the show coming up April 21st is the South Jersey Comic and Toy Show.
Okay.
And he also hosts a Chud, which is Comics Here Under $1.
Okay.
Later in the year. And it's only, and at the Chud show, it's only books 99 cents or $1 or less.
Wow.
Literally, I'm pretty sure he'll kick you out of the room if you have anything worth more than that. But some vendors do some cool stuff. They'll be like let's say there's 100. They have like some vendors will put up a wall or something. Well, I can't remember the last time this happened, but it does happen. They'll put up a wall and there might be $100 book on the wall, and they'll be like, buy $101 books and you get this book for free.
Oh,
right.
Yeah, I have to.
Yeah,
I'll be going to that one. Even though the name greatly bothers me, that name bothers me to my core.
It's a great movie.
It's a great movie, except when it came out, everybody fucking called me Chud for a year.
Still a good movie.
I won't call you that.
Still bothers me to this day.
You have a beard, but Daniel Stern did that movie now.
With the beard's going away soon.
But yeah, I mean, the Bill's shows are good. I like doing them as a vendor, and like 9 times out of 10, the people who go are always like pretty happy, and it's a lot of digging. Like a lot of people are digging at these shows.
What we like to do. All right, have to catch Are you still going to be a vendor at shows, or you're just going to stick basically to promoting the one-day comic?
No, I'll be a vendor. So I will be a vendor at the 21st show. The show is the 21st. So like what I like to do, as a vendor, what like a lot of it's my responsibility as a vendor to not just show up and sell books to you guys, but I owe the promoter marketing, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm doing the show, I will market for the promoter.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it'll be biased for me. It'll be, hey guys, I'll be at this show.
Sure.
But like I still promote it and let people know. So you guys will see that before the show.
Okay, good.
Good.
Yeah. So that'll be there. And that's in Swedesboro. So where are you guys coming from?
We're in Staten Island.
Staten Island.
Oh shit. Yeah, so that's like it's a little bit of a drive for you guys.
Yeah.
It's in a town called Swedesboro.
Mm-hmm.
Swedesboro,
How
New
far
Jersey.
How far from where you had the show?
Oh, like 40 minutes south.
That's far.
Yeah.
That's like an hour and a half for us.
Cape May.
So realistically, in Swedesboro, you're 30 minutes from Philadelphia. Like easily, like right over the bridge.
It's not that bad.
Yeah, I go to Philly.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
So
where can everybody find you? If anyone wants to find you
online, how do we do that?
We want people to find you.
Yeah, so primarily just NJ Comics Stop STOP at on Instagram. That's primarily where you could find us.
Save my baby.
Oh yeah, that has everything on it pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys have any questions or inquiries or collection questions, whatever you need, just feel free to give me a shout. That's pretty much it. If you guys are looking for something, I mean, I just purchased one of the biggest inventory lots in my life, like last October. So I definitely have a lot of inventory. But yeah, man, I mean, if you guys have any questions about the show on the 21st, or if you have any questions about, books you're looking for, feel free. And if you guys do come down, stop by at the consignment shop, or let me know before you go to the consignment shop. I know it's a little bit of a ways away, but I'll try and make sure it's like restocked for you guys. So that way you can like dig or something. Yeah.
We would definitely like to visit, do a video from this.
Yeah, video
new
visit
place. That would be good.
Oh yeah, I think it would be cool. I think you guys would like it. I mean, there's I'm trying to think. There's other like guys in there who are selling comic books, but like nothing like not to the magnitude that I do. And I see that you guys have. Yeah, and I see obviously you have figs and stuff in the back.
But when I turn it off, I'll show you. You were saying, you said something early on about how you don't consider yourself a collector because you don't collect anything. You don't say anything. When we're off, I'll show you.
But there's a dealer at the antique mall who has a significant amount of like, I could be off because I don't have an eye for it, but it's like OG Star Wars stuff, like early stuff. So
yeah, you do have some of that. Yeah,
there are some.
But yeah, I forgot where I was going with that. Never mind.
Thank you, though. Thanks for taking the time to sit with us. All right.
Yeah, no problem. I hope I have a feeling people might get a little pissed off about what I said earlier, but
that's fine.
I'm not really too concerned, and I do appreciate you guys just making the content and the videos. Like, even if the reality of it is, even if I think your video was negative towards my show, I think it's like super important what you guys are doing, because like, not for nothing, like, you guys kind of are like the journalists out there, like writing these stories and like talking about like what is good and what's bad, right? About like what's going on in the industry. Like, I say industry, and I'm literally talking about the collector industry, resale industry.
Sure.
I think it's important. Like, not a lot of people are doing it. I know I mentioned to you guys that like I'm going to be doing like a vlog about how I set up my first show, and I'll probably do like a vlog about how I am as a reseller, probably more on TikTok and some shorts on Instagram. But I think what you guys are doing is really important.
Oh, thank you. Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.